We have something very, very special, a remarkable actress, two-time Academy Award winner, three-time Emmy winner, SAG Award winner. Please welcome Sally Field.
Oh my God, I'm home.
And they're always the best looking audience. This is such a wonderful film, and it's so emotional and touching, and the work is so great. What I really like to start with is ask you how you came to this role.
How I came to this role. Okay. Oh, I'm so glad to be with the actors. I had always sort of been clocking in my head Mary Todd for years and years and years, that somewhere along the line I thought she belonged to me if anyone ever did anything because of my physicality and hers, and I just felt in my heart. And I had heard that Doris Kearns Goodwin was writing a book, and originally I'd heard it was about Abe and Mary. And then I heard that Stephen had purchased it, and it was called Team of Rivals eventually. And I somehow let it be known when I ran across Stephen one time that I thought, gosh, I would sure love to be considered for Mary. And in 2005, I think it was, I was someplace, and Stephen came up to me and said he wanted me to play Mary. And I was like, wow, okay, wow, God, and was so moved and all of that, and got in the car to go home from wherever I was, and the little voice inside said, I don't think so. That's not going to happen. That'll never happen. It just never happened. And it stayed there in my head because I thought, well, it'll be a long time before there's a script. There was no script. There was nothing. I kept thinking maybe it won't happen. It just won't happen. I won't have to confront the voice in my head that says, not going to happen. And scripts came and went, and then Tony Kushner came on board and delivered this exquisite piece of writing. And
Beautiful.
And I went, oh God. And there was another actor involved at the time as Lincoln. And I was invited to come to a reading of the script in New York with the most incredible cast of characters, New York actors, sitting around a table doing this reading. And I had like 48 hours I was given the script to sort of own it in any way I could, because even though they said, you know what, Sally, no, it's just a reading, nobody cares. Baloney. Oh. Yeah, right. That's what they say, and we all know we're actors. It counts. It counts big time. Come as the character, be the character, blow them out of the room if you possibly can. And I did the work, and it was well received, and it was an amazing experience, and I still went, And there was a lot of time went on, and that actor that was involved dropped out, and Daniel Day-Lewis came on board, and I went, oh, crap. By then, so much time had gone by, and also, honestly, because I'm talking to actors, they can get this. I was doing television at the time. I hadn't done film in a long time. I felt I'd lost any footing in that, and I felt I have so much baggage on me, some of it good, some of it not. And he would probably, Stephen, want to have someone who didn't have all that baggage and easy recognizability. And part of me wanted to go, oh, he's not going to want me. He's not going to want me. Okay, fine. I won't even, okay, it's fine. It's the way it is. Life just moves on. I've had a lot. Why should I ask for anything more? And then another part of me went, no, we can't let that happen. This belongs to you, and it belongs to you now. And so I called Stephen, and I said, and he got on the phone. He said, Sal, I owe you this call. I was just going to call you. And Daniel came on board, and I saw you with this other actor. I just don't see you with Daniel. I just don't think it's right. I just don't think this is going to happen. I'm so sorry, and thank you so much. And I said, Stephen, I know what you're saying. I know what you feel. I'm 10 years older than Daniel. I'm 20 years older than Mary. And he said, yes, that's a big part of it. And Mr. Lincoln was 10 years older than Mary. So basically there's a 20-year span that we can't sort of identify happening in this. And I said, I know that. He said, we're going to have harsh lighting and there'll be no prosthetics and Daniel's not wearing any of that and I just don't think this is going to work. I said, Stephen, Mary is worn. Daniel will be worn. I know I will not look older than he does. I know there is no one else can do this. It takes my miles in the saddle. I am the one for this. He said, and I'm there like literally telling Steven Spielberg, no, you're wrong. You're absolutely wrong. I think it was Mary Todd somehow went down into me, and I am really not like that. And Stephen, because he is this amazingly loving, generous artist, said, I hear you, I'm listening. I said, Stephen, test me. You need to test me. He said, okay, I will. So I became, we put this thing together. I had costumes, I had hair, I had makeup. We did this thing, and I had no other actors to work with. It was a really big problem. So we went down in this bottom of a screening room in Amblin, and Stephen and I and Janusz, the phenomenally artist that he is, the DP, filmed it and probably taped it or whatever. And I talked to nobody and did a monologue, and I knew I never really caught flight. I couldn't feel liftoff. I could feel like my feet were skittering along the top of the water. I couldn't really lift off. And I went away that day and thanked him, and I knew it was a good effort because I left my heart bleeding in some of it, but I knew, as you know, as an actor, you know when you got the wind in your sails, and you know when you're just running along behind it. And that's what I was. And the next day, and I was working in television at the time, and the next day, Stephen called and said, Sal, it's just not going to work. I've tried. I can't get Stephen. He said, I can't get Daniel. Daniel's in Ireland. He's cocoonized himself, becoming Lincoln. He's wrapped in silk and hanging upside down in a tree. I don't know. So I had to put you together with some old film of Daniel, and it's just really not going to work, and I feel really bad. And I said, Stephen, please don't feel bad. I thank you so much for this chance. That's all I wanted was a chance, and I did that, and I thank you so much. And I tried so hard not to kill myself the rest of the day because it was a very good thing I didn't, because the next day Stephen called me again, and he said, I just couldn't get this out of my mind. I couldn't quit thinking about it. I walked around the lot all day long. I couldn't quit thinking about it. And then I talked to Daniel, who saw the footage. He's like, oh, fine, just fine. He saw the footage, and he really wants to meet you. Okay. But he's in Ireland, and we're here, so perhaps if we meet in New York, we could have a cup of coffee or a cup of tea or something. I said, fine, just so fine. It couldn't be better. When and where, just I'll be there. And so he said, well, we'll work it out. So I'm running back and forth and trying to clear my schedule and get there and this schedule and that schedule. And then I get a call from Stephen's office that says, so do you want the same hair and makeup? And I said, for what? A cup of coffee?
Yeah, right.
I was going to go really simply, in jeans or something. And he said, oh, no one called you. I said, no. They said, well, Daniel felt, and I don't know really what went on, whether it was it was probably, knowing them both now, it was Daniel and Stephen together. Really, first the generosity of Stephen, and then the exquisite generosity of Daniel. And Daniel decided that Stephen needed to see the two of us on film together. So Daniel flew in from Ireland to Amblin, over the hill there. And he went off, it was this like weird Saturday afternoon, late afternoon. He was off by himself. I'd never met him. He became an early version of Mr. Lincoln. I became Mary again. And we met in the middle as Mr. Lincoln and Molly. That's what he called her. And he I stood up, gave him my hand. He kissed my hand. I said, Mr. Lincoln. He said, Mother, was what another thing he called her. And there was this sort of audible hush in the people that had sort of fallen by the wayside. We went down into the screening room floor, the same one I'd been to before, and did some sort of bizarre hour-long improv. Can you imagine? Think about it. And afterward, I said, thank you very much. You guys need to talk amongst yourselves. I'm so grateful to be given this chance, and I will always be grateful no matter what happens. And when I got home, the phone was ringing, and Stephen and Daniel were on the phone together saying, will you be Mary?
Ooh, how great.
So, it's a lesson of some form. I'm not really sure what, except actors are always the same. Always, always, always. You always stay the same. It's always that blinking struggle.
Well, I was going to ask you how you prepared for this historical role, but it sounds like you were doing it for about 5 or 6 years. I mean,
Yeah.
you were really working on this character subconsciously and doing a little channeling too, I think.
Channeling only goes so far, actually.
Well, but you have talent, so.
No, but then the work began. And I had done some work before that, obviously, because thank God I had done a lot of reading about Mary before we even got into the improv. Obviously, Daniel had too, being who he is, because we were able to just go and become the relationship that we both knew is what they were. So he was sitting and slouching, and Mary walked around and criticized him, stood up straight and fixed his clothes and tries to brush him off and constantly trying to clean him up and make him better. So we just instantly were actors that, hopped into that spot. But I then got to, I had like 6 or 7 months, first of all, to put on 25 pounds, which is what I did, which is what any one of you would have done.
And loved it.
Or more. And to read as many books as I can, so I read 5 biographies, the really credible biographies on her. There's a lot more on Lincoln, obviously, than there really is on Mary. And got to go visit places that were hers, her childhood home, and some collections of memorabilia that is Mary. And then slowly the process that happens is that you take that information, trying to piece together the psychology of someone who's so complicated as Mary, and take the text of the scenes, the magnificent scenes that I was given to do, and blend the written information that you've read with your own life and your own humanness, and then eventually end up, standing toe-to-toe and doing it.
There's several scenes in the film, but one I wanted to talk to you about is the scene where you're in the room, you and Abe are in the room, and you're telling him that, go ahead, just put you back, commit you. And it's such a powerful, powerful scene between the two of you. Was that something that you were, I don't know what to think now, because if you could do that in improv, you probably didn't need to even rehearse that scene very much, but it was so powerful. And I remember the costume, and you had like the undergarment, the small undergarment. Women wore so many things, but you really looked like a very young girl. You did, you looked fabulous. And you were you were telling him. So you talk about, like, go ahead, put me back.
Well, I think those are sort of two scenes you're talking about. One of them is the scene where he undresses her, and she's standing in a like her undergarment, you know.
Yes.
And that's when she's hoping he's not leaving the room. At least that's what I was playing. I'm not sure what he was playing. All I know is he left the room. Which is where it's the beginning of what eventually becomes the big brouhaha between them, and this is that he begins to talk about Robert wanting to go into the war. And the war is the issue. The war is the issue throughout, that it is what the whole country had to endure. But Mary, you know, took it all so personal. It's so beautifully written by Tony Kushner, because all of the characters, the ones you get to really examine, being Mr. Lincoln and Mary and you know, Tommy Lee's character, you get to see, you know, a kind of complicated humanness because they're so flawed. You know, you don't see them as perfect people. You see them as complicated people living like people do, and that they, you know, they care about the things they care about, and they aren't always for the betterment of humanity. And Mary cared about her children. You know, let those other people die. You know, not my child. I've lost enough. And the fight scene in the fight scene between Mary and Mr. Lincoln was, you know, just this huge, magnificently written scene where he threatens to put her, because he threatened her. Mary found it so difficult. She lost a child before she got to the White House. She lost a child in the White House, and the child she lost in the White House was so devastating to them both, because he was both of their delight in life. He was Mary's companion and dearest friend, and Mary made a lot of enemies, a whole lot of enemies, and she didn't really have any women friends because she probably didn't want them. She was very, you know, critical and jealous, and she had a lot of flaws, but she was also brilliant and important, very vitally important to who he was. And when Willie died, she went to her bed and didn't get out for months and months. Didn't get up, and couldn't mother Tad at all, and barely mothered him ever again. And so you see it so beautifully how he took over and mothered his son, because Mary couldn't do it anymore. And so he, at that time, the way he got her out of bed is he threatened to put her in the booby hatch that was happened to be conveniently located right across the street. So he would say, see that building? That's where you're going. So that was the fight. She says, you know, needless to say, she got rather pissed off when he, you know, he rose up above her anguish to threaten her and say, get up or I'm going to, you know, institutionalize you. So she got up, but you know, they fought it out a lot all throughout their marriage. There's documented, you know, letters from neighbors and things that you could hear Mary screaming at him from down the block, you know.
Well, she's a very powerful woman. I'm skipping around a little bit on scenes, but another scene that I absolutely think is fabulous and you're so wonderful in is in the receiving line when Tommy Lee comes in. Was that great? Oh my God, it's fabulous. And you had worked with him, I believe, on another film, so you two knew each other, but it was so powerful and so funny. But when Stephen was close on him, it seemed like you could see the joy in his eyes of watching you do this, you know, of Mrs. Lincoln doing it.
I think probably Tommy is so wonderful in this piece, is he not? He is so good in it. And it's such a great character that he's been given. But Tommy, you know, plays, you know, Mary's nemesis. I mean, she absolutely despises him. So it was an interesting way that he played it. And I when he would come in and do it. One of the interesting things about doing this film is that we had zero rehearsal on anything. Zero. None. We had no read-through. Many of the scenes, certainly that I shot, I wasn't there for a lot of the things, obviously, they shot, but some of the biggest scenes that Mary has in the film, we had no rehearsal whatsoever. In the first scene that you see where Mary's in the mirror and he's telling her the dream and she turns around and she's shaking, we shot that literally. The first scene, like the third day we were shooting, where I sat down and Stephen said, "You'll just sit down right here." Okay. So you know what? Let's just shoot it and see what happens. Okay, let's do that. And it was over Daniel, it was over Mr. Ling and onto Mary. And he said, "Let's just shoot it, see what happens." It was a 6-page scene. I said, "Oh, sweet Jesus, don't let me down." So it was probably a good thing because in it, I used the fact, instead of trying to hide the fact, and oh God, I'm so glad I'm talking to actors. I used the fact that my hands were shaking. And I turn around and you can see my hand going like this because Mary's hands, because Mary shook all over when he told her his dreams. She was terrified for him, and he would come and tell her things that he couldn't feel, and she would feel them for him. And so I thought, ooh, perfect, Field. You happen to be shaking a little. Just go ahead and let it be. And so, you know, God works in mysterious ways. And so we shot that scene, and we shot it some, but not a ton. And then we turned around and, you know, and did Mr. Lincoln and shot, and then Mary moves around a little bit. But woohoo! You know, it's just miles in the saddle that you're calling on and hanging on. You know, you're just hanging on to that saddle. Just history is going to carry you through. And I'd done enough work on it, but I'd never heard myself in the accent. I'd never heard myself say the dialogue. You know, how much we rely on just having some kind of time that we say it out loud a bunch of times so we're not shocked by our own voices. So it was an interesting adjustment, and there's several scenes in the film that I shot that we really only shot once or twice, not many. The Willie scene in Willie's room, the grieving scene that Stephen shoots in tabloid, you know, literally it's just almost like silhouette. We just sat down and shot it. And then he covers it very little. In the carriage scene, we shot.
I love that scene.
Yeah, we shot only maybe twice, and actually Daniel wanted another take, and we lost the light. Stephen said, "Oh, I think we got it." Did we? Did I say it? Did I say all the dialogue? You know, it was kind of remarkable and fabulous in its way. You know, it made you were so alive, and not that I ever feel dead in a scene, or I ever would have felt dead in this for a second, but it certainly brought about some ingredients I hadn't been planning on, you know, which is always a good thing.
Well, I don't know that he could have done what you all did if it weren't for the actors that he selected, because I think that the talent on the screen is remarkable. I know you want to talk to actors, so we're going to go to the audience, and we have some people out here with microphones, and we'll start right over here.
You know what? We can just be actors and project. You don't have to worry about it.
We have someone right here in the front.
If you don't have a mic, just speak out, because I can hear you and we can all hear you.
What was the funnest thing that ever happened to you when you were filming Lincoln?
Oh my goodness. What was the funnest thing that ever happened to me when I was filming Lincoln? Let me think about that. what was the funnest thing? I don't know, because I never, it's so, fun is such a trivial word in a way. When you get to do the work you worked your whole life to do, you don't know because you're 12, 10, 10? How old are you? 11. I was so close. Well, trust me. You'll love something so much, and you'll work your whole life to be good at it, and you'll never, ever feel you've arrived. That will be the good news. And that's the good news.
Do you have someone?
And then every once in a while, every so often, you will get to do the work you feel you worked your whole life to do. And that's so much bigger than fun. It's so much better than fun. It makes fun look like a rubber glove in the most elegant store that ever was. I mean, fun is so unimportant compared to that. Whatever the hell that is.
Do you have a person right here?
Hi, I've got a microphone.
Hi.
Where did the dialogue come from? Was it from letters or historical papers, or was it just made up?
First of all, it's Tony Kushner. Second of all, Tony became an absolute historian. A lot of what is said on the floor of the house is from the transcripts. He took stuff, absolutely lifted it from history. There's a lot of stuff that, you're right, comes from letters, comes from the absolute language of the time, things that, he picked up that he absolutely saw. And then it is Tony Kushner. Then he took all of that and mixed it up, and it is of the language of the time, and it is of the language of Tony Kushner. In a lot of ways, it's almost Shakespearean, almost impossible to say, almost like wrapping your mouth around the dialogue sometimes was really, really difficult and fabulous to be challenged like that, to say that kind of eloquent verbiage. But he's a historian, really, Tony.
Okay. Oh, it is me. Okay.
Yeah, you're up.
It's you. Don't back away.
Congratulations. It's a terrific performance, terrific movie. Just two things about surprise. Was there any one thing that surprised you about Mary Todd Lincoln? And then what was your surprise, anything, when you saw this finished product for the first time?
That's okay. So let me think about this. I don't think anything surprised me about Mary because I didn't come in with any expectations about her. Maybe because I have enough training as an actor that went from the time I got the role, I refused to have any expectations in any way because, as we all know, that's one of the great pitfalls. And the second part of the question is what surprised me or what surprised? Oh, my reaction. Oh dear, I'm still sort of reacting. I saw it only like a month ago, and I saw it in the Disney screening room theater, this big, huge theater, all by myself, because Stephen didn't want anyone to see it at all, and I had to see it because I had to begin promoting it the next day, and I swear to God, I think he blindfolded the projectionist. I really think that no one was allowed in there but me. And I sat in this room and watched it, and I'm so emotionally connected to it, I had no idea what I'd seen, and went, oh my God, well, oh my God, oh my God. I really didn't know. You could see that Daniel was breathtakingly brilliant. You could see that this is surely Stephen's masterpiece forever. And other than that, and I thought Spader was funny.
Yes.
And I just kind of wandered out and called my youngest son and said, I think I'm just horrible in this movie. I think I'm just horrible. So we're actors,
We'll take one over here.
Okay, thank you so much for being here. I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit about what it was like when the camera wasn't rolling, how you stayed focused, because I know that I've heard a lot about Daniel Day-Lewis staying in his character the whole time. Did you interact with him much, like in character or not, or what? Like, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. You know, everyone says, this is a great question, because everyone says as I'm starting on the press parade here, a lot, they, will talk about this notorious sort of Daniel's process, and they call him, oh, he's so method. I go, no. I am method.
Right.
I said, method was the term that was coined from the group theater, the actor studio, Lee Strasberg. That's where I came from. I truly am method. Daniel is a lot of method-like things, but one of the he's beyond brilliant, but he and Stephen created this bubble, this magnificent bubble of this time and safe space where the actors could live with such unbelievable regard and respect for what that process is. Never, ever have I faced it before. Never, ever will I have it again. And when the films that I've had the opportunity to do in my life, whether they be on television like Sybil or whether they be in film, where I have to go to a land and don't come out, ever, in a lot of cases. When you work like that, when you work so hard to be in someone else's shoes and you work on their history and who they are, and you implant it in your head, it stays in your brain as if it were your own memory. It's the truth. And so these places that I've gone, they've changed me. I have been changed by these places, as if I have had these experiences of various characters, and I've never come back because I've just been changed. And Stephen and Daniel together created this bubble where when I would do it by myself, I would be too embarrassed to impose anybody into my world, and I would hide it, and I would go in a corner and hum and carry on and hope that no one thought I was weird, and I would knit and hope that told everyone that I was busy and go away. And here it was that when I would walk on the set as Mary, I had no sense of the crew. There was no one yelling, move that light, or telling a joke about what happened last night. There was no one slapping you on the back and said, hey, have you seen this? There was nobody invading your space. You got to be in the world that you'd created, in the land of what you were about to do, running, if you were living with the words, or if you were simply doing any sort of exercises before you were just going to plop down and do it. The crew went to the wayside. They were hushed. And they did it not with resentment, but that they felt privileged to understand the process of what actors do. And the scenes that I did, it was like there were 3 people in the scene, mostly Daniel and I, and then this creature that would somewhere touch down. Stephen would whisper in my ear, and I didn't know where he came from, or he'd grab my hand, and it was down here, or he'd come quietly, sort of almost like crawling in. He never left the set. He never went to the monitor and you didn't know where he was, and you sat and waited after you did a take going, well, what, crickets? Did anybody like this friggin' thing or what? And he was never out of the space where we were in. He wore a suit and a tie. He fit the period. Anyone who was in your face, like the ADs or whatever, wore period costumes. You never had a feeling that when you're doing a period and you're locking yourself into some made-up world that you're convincing yourself you live in, you were never confronted with the reality. And it was like I died and gone to heaven. It was coming home is what I trained my whole life to do. It's what the actor studio really teaches, those long exercises of massive concentration so that you could try to keep the outside world out and do your work. And here Stephen and Daniel created it. And did Daniel and I talk to each other? Yes, but as Mary and Mr. Lincoln. And that's what it would have been. And that's what it would have been had I been doing Sybil. You know, when I did Sybil, did Joanne and I talk as if we were Joanne and Sally? No. Mostly I was in the corner facing the wall and drooling in a cup, you know. I don't know. Trust me, when I was doing Sybil, someone tried to arrest me on the streets of New York because they thought I was a crazy person and cart me off. So, you know, that's what actors do. I wouldn't know any other way. Some of the actors that I've worked with in like necessarily, you know, the kind of, you know, massive concentration that Daniel does. But Tom Hanks still calls me Mama. It's like bizarre. I go, what? That's your mother. You know? So, you know what? Honestly, that's what actors do. And this was just on the most exquisite, most respected, supported, and nurtured level. Not only by the actors, most especially created by the brilliant Stephen, but by all of the magnificent artists who are behind the camera, from the DP, from Janusz, from Joanna Johnson, who created the costumes down to the most minute detail, on the sets. On the sets were the actual things they had gone. They'd gone to the. They cared enough. Their artistry was enough that they wanted to have every single thing as authentic as they possibly could have it. So you could open a jar on the set thinking, well, this will be, you know, filled with the card that says what rental house it came from, the way they do. And no, it was filled with things and candies or whatever would be there. And so it helped you, it enriched where it was you were already trying to go. So never in my life have I had it before, and never will I have it again.
Wow, it's a fabulous experience. I'm sorry, you guys, but we do have to wrap this up.
Oh,
Let's
darn.
thank Sally very much for being here.